Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The 19-year-old British prospect Moses Itauma will take a huge step up in his career, facing Dempsey McKean on the Fury Uysk rematch card, which is December 21st in Saudi Arabia. So big rematch card, so big chance to shine for the 19-year-old, who still is potentially on pace to become the youngest heavyweight champion if everything fell into place. But let's put that aside for a moment. This is a big step up for Itauma, but Turkey USYK had announced on social media the undercard. He says, before two giants collide in Fury vs Uysk reignited, the undercard is set to light up the ring with some of the biggest names in boxing stepping into the ring. These matchups will set the stage for an unforgettable night. I thought maybe Bacoli vs Zhang was going to be on the undercard, or Joseph Parker was going to feature, but not so. But there is another heavyweight fight on the undercard as well. So it seems to be a little bit of a night of for a couple of heavyweight prospects. Johnny Fisher also featuring. I'll cover that in another video. But this one here, this is a significant step up for the 19-year-old. So on social media, he's reposted it. Also on his Instagram story, Dempsey McKean has on his Instagram story posted "locked in." So what we have in Moses Itauma is a 10-0 pro with 8 knockouts. He has struggled to get rounds in recent times, but let's face it, some of the matchmaking has been relatively soft, or he's faced guys that are husks of a husk of a husk, a la USYK, who at near 45 years old was there wasn't really much left of him for Moses Itauma to work with. He stopped him inside a couple of rounds. So that's not Itauma's fault. That just is, Father Time catching up with USYK, and the Iron Chin is no more. But we have seen in the past, he's had some good rounds from Konstantin Doboshenko, which was, his third fight. But apart from that, in Kevin Nicholas Espindola, there's been a lot of first and second round stoppages ever since. So he is heading into this one lacking some rounds. And sometimes with some of the knockover jobs and even, faded husks of a husk like Vuk, sometimes those performances and stopping guys who are showing no resistance or have no punch resistance, it can flatter to deceive. So you're stepping up to face a guy in Dempsey McKean who's currently got a record of 22-1. He's 6'6", so he's taller than Itauma. He's going to have the reach advantage, and he's a southpaw. He can box from the outside, and he can make it a bit difficult. So it's a huge step up in terms of going from probably the best name on the record, Konstantin Doboshenko, to Dempsey McKean. Doboshenko hasn't got much of an offensive output. McKean, he can punch a bit, and he knows how to use his height. And as we saw in his fight against Filip Hrgović, which was his last fight, so he is coming off a loss, he can, actually survive against a guy who is considered a puncher. He knows how to spoil, he knows how to tie up. That fight against Hrgović, he was doing a lot of it. So it's not going to necessarily be as straightforward, I think, as maybe some people may consider it to be. I think McKean, maybe it's not a banana skin fight, but I think it's going to be probably, all Itauma can handle at this point. You wouldn't want to match him any tougher, I think, at this point. I mean, I know some people think that he can go in there and compete with basically anyone at this point, but I haven't seen enough in the limited amount of rounds that he's fought for me to go, yeah, he can go in there and beat a top 10 guy right now. McKean, he's more in that sort of top 20 to top 30 bracket, but he is a solid pro. Obviously he's being set up here as the opponent, and for Itauma to come in here, get some good rounds and get a win and advance his own cause in the heavyweight division. But it's not a certainty. But I guess what we can say with McKean, he's got some of these advantages in terms of height and reach and that sort of stuff. we've got Moses Itauma, who's clearly going to have a speed advantage, and with fast hands and able to get off, he is going to find some holes. And as some of the opponents for McKean in the past have found, Johnny Rice had some good success in their fight a few years ago. Obviously, we saw Filip Hrgović sort of stopped him late on, but it wasn't all one way for Filip Hrgović. You know, he had to sort of grind in that fight with McKean, and McKean made him work for it. So I'm hoping, well, I'm expecting to see, you know, something the same. And if it gets tough, McKean knows how to sort of tie up and spoil, like I say. But Itauma is going to have to work for it. And I think this is a guy that is on the rise, is developing. He has come a long way since that fight against, I'm on the wrong page here, against Doboshenko a year ago. What we had in that fight, or 18 months ago, you know, we had Moses Itauma. You know, he was pretty fresh, but he hadn't got to that point where he could work through a plan to break a guy down. He was, you know, effectively it looked mostly all the same against Doboshenko. Not so bad for a fresh, you know, green, you know, rookie of a fighter at 18 years old. But now I think we'd expect, if he's going to beat Dempsey McKean, it's probably not going to be with one punch, but he is going to have to set him up and look to break him down, I think, over a number of rounds. So it's that sort of development that we need to see in this sort of level of fight, because it is a couple of rungs up from the faded husk of a husk of a husk, which is Mariusz Wach. You know, McKean is a live dog, and if Itauma is overconfident and tries to maybe take things a little too far and steps in, gets caught, you know, McKean does have the potential to hurt Moses Itauma. But what we do know about this fight, and what Frank Warren and co will be hoping for, is that on this card, you know, a huge rematch card that's going to have some global reach, a lot of people will be watching. You know, you have Itauma in a showcase fight of sorts, a very good slot, a couple of fights from the top. So this is an occasion that Itauma can really help build his name. I mean, as it is at the moment, you do have Moses Itauma, 19 years old. You know, I think he's starting to come up and get a little bit more awareness amongst maybe casual boxing fans. A few more fights, a few big performances, starts to get maybe some of that casual reach, you know, extending a bit further into the public. Already over 40,000 followers on Instagram. I mean, that's shot up in recent times. So huge occasion, huge platform. I would pick Itauma to win this one, but I think at this stage of his career, based on what he's been fighting recently and the knockover jobs that he's had, you know, McKean represents a significant test and step up. So I think this might be a little tougher than some expect. And McKean's not just going to roll over, because if he manages to upset the apple cart here, and you have him beating one of the hottest prospects in the heavyweight division, obviously he gets right back into contention for a big fight. So it's all there to play for Dempsey McKean. You know, why just show up for the payday when you can wreck the occasion for the young prospect and try to walk away with glory? But Itauma, he'll be looking to show that he's developing and show what he's all about, because I think if he goes in there and really impresses, more people I should say, will say, look, he's the real deal. I mean, I know there's all the talk about becoming the youngest heavyweight champion and all that sort of stuff. This sort of fight puts him still in the picture if they were to really try to go for that. But I think this sort of fight makes people believe that he could be the real deal if he goes in there and beats a guy who clearly has got something about him. And McKean, top 20 to top 30 guy, you know, that shows us that he's ready for potentially guys that might be in that sort of top 15 to top 20 range in the next, you know, fight or two. As it is, his development seems to be, you know, sped up, trying to make things happen. Already 10-0 at 19 years old, and the world before his feet. And this card is going to be a huge piece in his early career. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.